Kim Creighton, or as she's known by the people who know her best, Mama C. The show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Hello, guys. Good evening. We are live with Real Talk for Real Teens this evening. My name is Kim Creighton, as always, and we're going to jump right in it. I have a very special guest today, Dr. Shepard. Dr. Shepard, are you there?
I am. Hello.
Hello. Will you introduce yourself to my audience, and we get right into it, because I just received your article, and we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I'm happy to join you tonight. I think we actually met in Atlanta at one of my TED Talks. Happy to be with you guys. I'm the director of the Atmospheric Sciences program at the University of Georgia, so we have a lot of teens that end up at some point coming over to the University of Georgia, and so as a professor at the University of Georgia and director of our weather and climate program, basically, I'm always curious about getting the pulse of teens on science and technology. I should also mention that before I joined the University of Georgia, I was a scientist at NASA for several years, 12 years, and so it really was like a kid in the candy store for me to be working at NASA, the great places in American history for science. So that's a little bit more about me, and I guess I'll say a few other things as we go along.
Okay, so what 21st century skill will we be talking about today?
Yeah, I think my focus will be on the technology education or tech ed skill, because I think that's a critical skill moving forward for teens as they consider future careers, internships, and opportunities.
Okay, before we jump into it, define tech ed. How do you define tech ed?
From my perspective, clearly from the iPhone C and iPhone S, 5C and 5S's to Twitter and Reddit and whatever else the teens are into right now, this is all technology-driven. Clearly, high-definition TVs, all aspects of our society is driven by technology now, GPS on our phones and in our cars. But all of that is underpinned by science. And so for me, tech ed involves sort of the convergence of science knowledge and applying that science through technology for the betterment of our society and also for discovering new things. That's really going to be my operating definition of tech ed tonight.
Oh, good. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Because you passed along an article that was in a recent issue of Ebony magazine, and the title is Why African Americans May Be Left Out of the 21st Century Job Market. So let's just jump right into that.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, for some of your teens out there, I've got a 10-year-old, but she's almost getting to the age where she's starting to think about what she wants to do for a career. And what really motivated me to write that article for Ebony, and you can actually find that now on ebony.com. If you just Google Dr. Marshall Shepard and 21st century jobs or something, you should find it if you're listening out there. But I was looking at, U.S. News and World Report or Money Magazine or one of these popular magazines, and they had the top jobs for the 21st century. And what I noticed about almost 75% of the jobs in that list is that they were science or technology jobs, whether it be in IT or computer skills or science. And I said, as I look around the landscape, not a lot of African-American, particularly kids, are going into science and technology, either at the high school and on in the college level. And so if we're not going into those fields now, if those are the top jobs of the future, we're not going to be adequately prepared. So I was really concerned. I mean, I think, culturally, a lot of us grew up in homes where we were told that, if you're smart, go be a lawyer or a doctor or go into business. And those are good careers, but they aren't the careers of the 21st century. I mean, they're overwhelmingly science and tech.
And that's why I added, the list of 21st century skills is basically, communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. And I added some of those things. And the two things that I did add was international education and technology education. Because those are the things I think people do not really keep in mind with this generation. I talk to young people all the time, and I'm like, you guys need a tech education. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to program computers. Do you realize technology is so far beyond just programming computers? Yes, that's a component of it, but do you know how much technology nurses are using? Do you know how much technology artists are using? Do you know how much technology, I mean, in any field, do you know how much technology is being used? And as you said, if you're not a part of that, if you don't have the language, then you can't be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm pretty sure many of your listeners, teens like Rihanna or J. Cole or Dream. I'm up on all these people because I like a lot of that music. But you know what? A lot of the producers producing that music, like Dream himself or whoever is producing 2 Chainz or Wale or some of the people that I know the teens are listening to and that I listen to, I've got some of that on my iPad right now. But they're producing all of that music in digital format and Pro Tunes and GarageBand. Those are all technology related. So I use that as an example because I know people can relate to some of the music out there, but you don't have to be like a nerd or a tech head or a computer head to know that the jobs of the future, whether you're talking about a video game designer or a scientist designing the next generation phones that we're using. I mean, when some of the teens that are listening to us now are, grown and in their careers, there's no telling what kind of phones we'll be using. It'll probably be virtual 3D phones or something. We'll be seeing people with 3D-dimensional holograms instead of tweets and chats and whatnot. But that technology has to start now, and so we have to have a generation of scholars and students and future professionals that talk the language, know how to, not just deal in technology and ed, but understand that they have to, you may hate science right now, but science, math, communication, those are the skills that are going to get you the good jobs 10, 15, 20 years from now.
And also, it's learning that I tell them all the time. Do you realize you have a computer in your hand? It's not just a toy. It's not just something for you to play with. Your phone is a computer. You have to use it as a tool. Don't ask me a question when you can look on your phone. Everybody has a data plan. Well, you can quote unquote Google it. Why are you asking me questions? Do you know what I had to go through to get information? I had to go and do the Dewey Decimal System. I had to check out books. Shut up! Don't ask me.
What is that?
Exactly. You know what? Get out of my face. You know what we had to go through to get information? Come on. And I really think that technology education part is such a piece. And I do think that the science part is folded into that, as well as the engineering part, when people talk about the STEM stuff. But I think that a lot of times they take it from a very technical, very boring, very black and white perspective, and a lot of young people can't relate to that, or they don't see themselves relating to that. But when we use examples, as we've said, about, a nurse uses technology, a producer of music uses technology, a fashion designer uses technology. For me to do this show, for me to do this show, I dial in on the internet into a show. I'm in Atlanta that is housed in New York, that I call people on from a New York number. Then if there's issues with the show, or if I need to edit it, I download it to iTunes, edit it in GarageBand, or if I want to put it on YouTube, then I take it to my iMovie, add some visuals to it, and then upload it to YouTube. I can do all of that from one laptop.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in London recently on some business, and I mean, I was basically getting pretty much everything that I needed to get done in the airport in London, Heathrow Airport, using my iPad. I mean, I didn't even need to pull out my computer. I mean, I could do everything on my iPad and on my smartphone. So it's a technology-driven society. We're all using it every day. Someone has to, devise that technology, the jobs that are related to it. Now, one of the things that I deal with, and something that teens are always interested in, is my profession is weather and climate. For example, my degrees are in meteorology, so right now I am looking at a tropical storm that might become a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico right now that will affect parts of the Gulf of Mexico. It will affect Atlanta probably later this weekend. So if any of you teens have any outdoor plans in Atlanta, Sunday it's probably going to rain because of this hurricane. We're tracking that hurricane using satellites. The prediction models that are predicting where it will go in 2 or 3 days, those are all done on computers. We're just spreading that information via Twitter and Facebook and other formats, Instagram. So it's in almost everything we do, and I'm really fearful if some of our kids out there and teens are sort of hesitant to embrace it. I mean, I look at my 6-year-old. He's a 6-year-old, and he knows more about my iPad than I do.
Oh, of course. And that's their language, and that's what I wanted to get to. It's like for us, once we figured out the Dewey Decimal System, it made sense to us. And just have a cell phone was not even. It was imagined at somebody's level, but not at the consumer level at the time when I was in school. And and so what you're talking about are technology and stuff that won't even be, because tablets 5 years ago didn't even exist. So it's like you guys, they have to keep up with. They have to not keep up with. They have to be beyond what's already here. They have to be able to envision that.
Yeah, look at what we do now. When I store, I download music off of iTunes or Amazon. I don't even have to have that music on my iPod or computer anymore. It's somewhere in the cloud. I mean, you can store it virtually. You don't even have to have it on you, and you can access it from anywhere. I'm sure as many of the teens use Spotify and Pandora and other, which I use all of those things too. So, I think that it's clear that the technology is around us. Well, one of the things I talked about in that Ebony article is that why aren't many of our teens going into science and technology? And I identified some reasons why I think that's the case. I mean, I think historically we've got a family and culture that, just some of our parents, some of the teens' parents and their parents, they have a very narrow view of what science and technology is. And so, you can go be a doctor, you can go be a computer programmer. But, they don't think about encouraging their kids to go be a civil engineer or an atmospheric scientist or an aerospace engineer or robotics technician. Because, let's face it, we don't have a lot of people in our families that are in that career, so we don't have anything to sort of pull from to advise. So we need to start breaking that generational cycle and getting more options on the table for our kids. So that's one of several things that I talked about in the article.
Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know that a rabbit can be blue, when someone says, I have a blue rabbit, you're like, yeah, whatever, until you see it. And so, that again, it's that you don't know what you don't know. It's not from not caring. It's just from lack of knowledge, just being ignorant. And that's one reason I like to do this show, and I like to bring people from various backgrounds on and talk about these 21st century skills, because everybody comes with their own perspective. Exactly. And someone can just
I would agree with that. I mean, we just don't know the opportunities, but that's why I appreciate shows like this, and that's why I try to do as much as I can. The other thing that was really important for me in my career is being connected to a mentor. Dr. Warren Washington was one of my mentors, and through him, I gained some life skills, life lessons, life advice that really helped me navigate my career. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, which is a historically black fraternity, and just recently my fraternity here in Gwinnett County, which is a suburb of Atlanta, had a mentoring workshop where we had young teen boys from the Gwinnett County area. Some of these kids were telling me they wanted to be an oceanographer or they wanted to be a dentist, but when I asked them, well, do you know what you need to do next to do that? They really didn't know, but I was able to, in the case of the oceanographer, for example, which is close to my field, I was able to point him in some right directions or some websites to look at or the right questions to ask or the right colleges to be looking out for. And that kind of stuff comes from mentorship, which is critical.
And it's interesting because I often have conversations with young people and they say the same thing, and it reminds me of, when you were younger, you used to have, I want to be an astronaut or I want to be a cowboy. And it was just something that you saw. But what I'm finding is that they're still having these ideas later in life, but when you're younger, you don't think about what it takes to become a cowboy. You just want to be a cowboy or a superhero or whatever. But it seems that even in high school, they still haven't engaged in the process of, it's like you're saying, this young man wants to be an oceanographer, that there's some research or some activity that I must be doing to make sure that happens. They are not completely engaged in, this is the desire, what's the action to help me get to the desire.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's critical. I mean, one of the things I told those young men is that and I would tell your teen listeners right now, if you don't have a list of goals, take some time this week and sit down and write out. And this may sound simple, and I'm like, oh, here we go again, goals. But it's important. Goals. Check those goals off as you achieve them, and then set new goals, and also have a backup plan for your goals. So one of the things I recommend for your teen listeners is to set a set of goals for this year, a set of goals for 5 years out, and a set of goals for 20 years out. Write those down on a piece of paper. It should be more than one page. You have your 1-year goals, your 5-year goals, and your 20-year goals. And as you achieve those, check them off and then add new goals. I'm constantly adding new goals to my list.
Yeah, because again, I'm forever having conversations with, so are you going to college? Well, what are you doing after graduation? I'm going to college. So have you been accepted? No. Have you applied? Not yet. My application is. So how do you think you're going to get in college? Oh, I know I am. It's like, whoa. There's a huge disconnect between the desire and the making it applicable or even obtainable. That's the word I'm looking for. It's like there's an effort. There's something between having the desire and that desire becoming a reality.
Yeah, no,
and that's the piece that they're missing out on.
Exactly. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes their kids, and even I have to get on my kids about this sometimes. Things don't just happen out of, I mean, there's not some magic college fairy like the Tooth Fairy that's going to come out and get you in college. You've got to do a little legwork. As soon as I realized I wanted to be a meteorologist, and that was really in about the 6th grade, even then I started looking around and say, okay, what colleges have good meteorology programs? Or I started trying to, I found a colleague that worked in that field. I was like in 7th or 8th grade at that time, or maybe 9th grade. I said, okay, can I shadow you for a day? I recommended to that young student, that teenager that wanted to be a dentist, hey, you go to the dentist. Well, I hope you do anyway. But you go to the dentist. You ask your dentist if I can shadow you for a day or follow you around for a day. So these are the types of things that you can do now. Okay, you say you want to go to college. What kind of grades do you need to get in that college? Or do you want to go to a big college or a small college? Does that college have the major that you're interested in? These are things that, I mean, with the Internet right there, these are things you can find out right now. My daughter, she's 9, 10. She wants to be a veterinarian. She already knows at 10 years old what colleges have the top veterinarian programs. So I think
they're not many.
They're
not many. Veterinary school is very competitive.
One of the top ones, actually. But what I would say is I know that there are teens out there that probably want to go to college and have the capacity to go to college, but if you wait until your senior year or junior year to start trying to get your grades up or get your PSATs or SATs right, and by the way, let me tell you right now, as someone that's at a university, you need more than just good grades and test scores these days to be competitive. You need to be volunteering, doing service. You need to have extracurricular activities like clubs and being on sports teams. All of those things will make you stand out when it's time to go to college. But if you graduate and say, oh, all of a sudden I think I want to go to college, and you haven't prepared and done these things, this is why a lot of our kids aren't getting into the colleges, because they don't stack up against the people they're competing with.
And I want to talk to you about well, there are a few different things. I'm trying to stay on the topic of the tech ed, but just the fact that your 10-year-old wants to be a veterinarian and knows what it entails, because a lot of people think, oh, it's just animals, but they don't realize that there are far fewer veterinary schools. And so the competition to get into veterinary school is much more competitive than it is to get into medical school.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
people don't realize that.
I took her over to meet with the dean of the vet school at UGA to start telling her now the types of things she needs to be prepping for. And this is just her story, but if I can even think of, just to give you an example, you're talking about get back to the technology ed. I just had a friend of mine who started a startup company online. He's one of my fraternity brothers. He's selling hair care products, black hair care products to salons via the internet. You can actually text him or tweet him or go to his website, and he can have, hair care products, weed, whatever the salon needs there in a much faster amount of time than traditional delivery and supply methods that salons used in the past. Now, someone out there may be interested in hair care or, whatever, but you can leverage technology to make your dream a reality, and that's something that he did.
Well, let's talk about hair care. If that's not a science-driven industry, I don't know what is. With chemicals and how they're using different tools to make hair do things that it doesn't naturally do. And there are a lot of young people out here who want to do hair. And for you to do hair for hair in your kitchen is totally different from hair in a salon. And hair in a salon on one side of the town is going to be totally different from hair in a salon on another side of the town. And that's going to take a lot of know-how in technology and science.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I say, teens out there, I look at my car that I drive, and I've worked hard enough to buy a pretty decent car, but that thing is totally computerized. I mean, if you're a technician,
exactly.
I don't even have to put the key in the ignition and it starts. But
yes.
When I go in for service, all they do is take my key or what they call the fob, and they put it in this thing, and it tells me when I had my last oil change or what is needed, just from this computerized data that the car collects. So imagine if you have to fix that. So there are a range of skills. So when we talk about technology, even if you don't want to go to a 4-year college and you say, well, I just want to go to a community college or a technical school, yeah, that's fine, but you're still going to deal with technology, because even the types of careers and jobs that are being prepared for at that level, it's still going to involve computers, technology education, and training. So no matter what, unless you just plan to sit around the house all day, almost anything you do going forward is going to have some technology linked to it.
Oh, exactly. And that's a language that you just need to learn how to speak in. And I've said this before we go, because we're almost done, and we're going to come back from the break, but I say this, and I know I ruffle some feathers, but I believe that technology education, I think that programming language should be our dual language for these young people, and not a foreign language. And I say that not to say that there's something wrong with learning a foreign language, but it's going to be, in my opinion, going to be obsolete. There are apps out there that if I'm sitting at a table with somebody who speaks Cantonese, I don't have to understand that. I can speak into that app, and it would translate to that person, and they would totally understand what I'm saying. I think that what we need to learn, these young people need to, because it's their language, need to learn a programming language, not to be a programmer, but just so you are familiar with how technology and those things work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Things like, one of the things we tell a lot of our students to, learn programming languages. The Python is one that's real hot right now in the technology side of the house. But even in our program, we get our students to use a lot of GIS, what's called Geographic Information Systems, and GIS programming. But yeah,
exactly.
Learning those skills, it teaches you how to think logically and systematically.
Exactly. And I don't see that happening in most foreign language classes. It's rote just like any other class. So I really
believe that. Memorization. I never really did too well with just kind of memorization. And even in my classes in college, when I walk into my college classroom right now, I start a class, first thing I say to the students, particularly the young freshmen who are coming in from high school, I said, if you're used to just taking the book home, memorizing facts, and then regurgitating them on a test, you're not going to do well in my class, because I I ask questions that test your ability to reason and think rather than just show me you can memorize the bold text in the book.
And that's how the world is. In school, we've taught them how to take tests. In the world, we need them to demonstrate knowledge or to demonstrate skill.
Absolutely.
So with that said, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, I need you to give us your 3 tips.
Okay.
All right.
Follow us on Facebook at Real Talk for Real Teens and on Twitter at RTFRT Radio. New or unknown music artists, we need you for the show. If you'd like your own mini concert, please send a request for information to realtalkforrealteens@gmail.com.
All right, we're finishing up our conversation with Dr. Shepard, and he's going to give us 3 tips for technology education.
Okay, so the one tip that I would give you for technology education is to, one, look around in your day-to-day lives and see if you can account for how much technology you utilize in a 24-hour period, and then write down what kind of skill set was probably required to produce that technology. 2, identify, and I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to repeat it. Identify what your short, mid, and long-term goals are for whatever you want to achieve, particularly if you want to go into technology ed, or secondly, associated with that, if you identify something that you want to do, try to identify how technology may actually affect that in ways that you haven't determined. And 3, if you're going into technology education, science education under that umbrella, try to find a mentor. Look, find someone that knows someone or that that works in that area or a similar area, and see if you can shadow them or talk to them or learn more about what it takes to really excel in that technology education area. So I think those are the 3 things that I would leave most with your audience.
And I love that first one because I hadn't even thought about that. And that's what I'm going to start telling young people from now on. Take 24 hours, and I want you to document all the forms of technology that you come in contact with, just so they can see how integral it is to their lives. How much. Because I don't think, I'm not even going to say I don't think, I know that we take it for granted now. We don't even recognize it anymore. But everything we do, our televisions are now digital. Everything we do is some form of technology. There's very little now we can do without technology.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think once people it kind of clicks in their head how much it's involved in their day-to-day lives, you'll see why I wrote that article that we may be left out of the 21st century job market if we're not training ourselves now or getting immersed in those fields.
Well, I'm going to make sure that when I post this to the website that I include the article, and I'm going to also post it on the show's Facebook page and the Twitter page so people can access the article. So thank you, Dr. Shepard, for agreeing to be with us, and I know you have to run off to take care of family things, so thank you for this time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And watch out for Hurricane Karen. I think it's Karen, right? Or is it Karen?
Right now, it's still a tropical storm right now. It may become a hurricane, but we'll see. But yeah, definitely.
Tropical storm Karen.
But it could become a hurricane in the next 24 hours, a weak one. But if you're in the southeast, just prepare for some rain this weekend.
All right, then. Well, thank you for the update, and you have a wonderful evening, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.